thank you everyone who's joining today. The purpose of this is just to take a bit of a breather after lunch and yeah, let everything process everything that you've been listening to this morning and just to relax really. Yeah, so what you'll need is, I suppose you can see I've got some paper here. I think this is about 200 GSM, so it's quite a thick paper. Doesn't really matter that much, so don't stress if you don't have anything thicker than cartridge paper. It'll just warp the paper a little bit. Then you need some coffee granules. I just have some good old, it's some Jacobs, you can see. So nothing too special, but you can use anything that you have on hand. I have some dry ones here at the moment, and I have some water. Also have, yeah, just some smaller bowls of water and something to mix it in. So I'll be mixing as you go. You're welcome to, I've seen some people have like different bowls with different strength coffee, but I'm just gonna mix as we go. And then, so I have a lot of things here. You can see I've got my paintbrushes and an eraser, pencil. You do not need all of these things. That's also a very tiny eraser. Some of you may have seen these brush pens, which I love for watercolor. They're amazing. But yeah, you can also use normal paintbrushes. That's perfectly fine. Then I also have some ink pens. These are, yeah, some that I got as gifts. This one's just like a nice brush pen, which I'm very excited to use. I haven't really used it yet. And a tiny micron ink pen. You can see, okay, I'm not going to try and show that to the webcam. And then I have some of this Parker Quink ink. I really enjoy working with this. It has like a blue tinge to it when you paint with it. But you don't need that. Like literally all you need is coffee, and if you have like a normal ballpoint pen, that's also perfectly fine. I'd prefer to work with black because yeah, black goes really well with the coffee color, but it's really up to you. Then yeah, if you want to get adventurous, you're welcome to use something like a twig or a feather. I borrowed this from my cat. She brought it to me the other day, so maybe I won't be using that, but anything interesting you want to use, yeah, feel free to just play. Yeah, so I'm gonna get started. Oh, one last thing, it's good to have some just some blotting paper on hand. It's just nice if you have too much water. Oh, I need to go fetch a tissue. I have a tissue right behind me. It's also good to have some tissues in case you go too crazy with the water and coffee and want to blot anything. So I'm going to keep this on hand as well. Is there anyone who has any questions or needs anything or is worried about anything? While I wait for anyone to type any questions, you may be wondering what we're going to be painting. I was thinking about it this morning as well. And I'm just like, usually I grab something in my nearby surroundings that means a lot to me, or I look at, in this case, pictures on my phone that I want to just feel like painting. Or if you want to just do patterns and, like I said, use something like a feather or a stick to do interesting markings, yeah, you can do really cool stuff with that as well. So I think what I'm going to start off doing is just a bit of pattern making just for fun. And then I'm going to be painting my cat because she's my muse, basically, especially seeing as it's been locked down. This is my cat, Linky. She is bound to come make an appearance sometime soon as well. And I've just selected some pictures that I feel like painting. So I'm thinking of doing a few different quick sketches of her. Yeah. So it seems like there aren't any questions. Let's see, are there any comments? Okay. All right. I don't know if there are any questions that I can't see. I might be looking at the wrong place. But if not, I'm just gonna get started. Okay. So I think I'm gonna create a background for my cats, my cat paintings. First off, I'm going to mix a little bit of water with some coffee granules. Like, yeah, it's probably obvious to say, but the more coffee you have, obviously the more intense the color. So I'm gonna mix that in a little bit, and anything that, I mean, any imperfections, I mean, I don't think they're actually imperfections, they'll just make it more interesting. So I'm gonna add some, like a thin glaze of water to the page as well. You can do this in any way you feel like. You can wet it beforehand with a clean brush, like you would with watercolor, or you can just add it as you go. Let's see. Those of you who love watercolor will obviously be able to apply some watercolor techniques as well. Like you can see the cauliflowering happening a little bit here. So I realize my webcam quality is not as great as it could be. But if any of you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me. So in watercolor, you call this wet and wet, where you have the wet layers on the page, and then you add wet to it. And you're welcome to wait for it to dry and then start stippling, or if you're just doing patterns, by all means, you can do it to the whole page and add like different intensities as well. But I'm gonna wait for this to dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna start with my cat drawings because I'm gonna be that person, that cat lady. Let's see. Okay, just checking the comments. I think I'm looking at the right place. Cool. All right. So it seems to be quite dry in this area, so I'm going to start with my first cat drawing. Let's see. All right, so there's Linky in her usual state. So I'm going to put this over here. It's often better drawing from life, because especially if you're doing botanical drawings, then it's way better to actually see the plant up close and like really understand how it works. Whereas if you see a flat picture of it, it's sometimes difficult to understand. Yeah, just the structure of the plant, for instance. So the same with live drawings. Live drawings are so much better, but my cat is upstairs right now, so I can't really draw her. I was hoping she'd be here next to me, but as she usually is. Yeah, so draw from life. It's sometimes a good idea to just go and like sit at a coffee shop and draw people walking past. It's really good just to get your eye in and yeah, start to understand motion. Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna skip ahead and just start. If you see your paint is not intense enough, then obviously just feel free to add some more coffee granules. Now, the idea of this is not to make it perfect, and definitely not to stress you out. So don't be too harsh on yourself. I'm just getting like the general shape of things. A little. And remember with anything that's like watercolor like coffee, it's good to start lighter and then work your way, add darker layers as you go, because it's hard to lift colors. It's not impossible. If you feel you've made something way too dark, then just take some of your tissue paper and just dab it. Or if that still doesn't work, wait for it to dry and then wet it again and dab it until you can lift up what you want to lift up. Let's see. I sometimes do this work with some of my colleagues, and it's really cool seeing like engineers and people, HR people, and people from like all different disciplines really enjoy this sort of thing, where it's like there's no pressure and you can just create. and give yourself a chance to be an amateur at something, and not have the pressure to just, excel all the time. So anyway, I think art's a great form of therapy. Okay, so that's as much definition as I want to give to this one. I'm going to let Leaky dry in that position. I'm going to find another one. Let's see. So I want to do 4 in total. Let's see. Okay, this one looks pretty good. So my plan is at the end, I'm going to add some ink to it, and then, so add the definition afterwards. Once again, if anyone has any questions or wants to know anything, please just ask in the chat. But yeah, at work as well, it's usually such a nice time to just chill and just kind of unwind. I often listen to podcasts or just really chilled music or audiobooks. I'm sure most of you do the same. Okay. Something I learned in my watercolor class is also just to, if you look at an object or your subject, it's good to start at the very darkest points. So especially with watercolor, that's where most of the pigment's going to be. So you build up the color from the darkest points. So that's usually a safe place to start, if you're wondering. Thanks. I'm glad that it seems that I'm good. I think a lot of practice. Honestly, my friends often ask me like, they say they really believe in talent, and I think a lot of it just has to do with practicing. I did my honors in illustration, and it was one of my favorite years ever, because the whole year we just experimented and had to get out of our comfort zones, like attach a paintbrush to the end of the stick just to like loosen up a little bit, because I love detail. So it's so easy just to get caught up in that. But it's just practicing. And like I said, I once listened to a podcast. Can't remember who it was by, but she was talking about allowing yourself to be an amateur, and just, you are really good at your profession and at lots of different things, but if you're trying a new skill, you might feel a little bit like an amateur, and that's actually a good space to be in. And you need to try and get into that space more often. That's when you start growing, and that's okay to not feel like you have everything under control. Okay, let's see. I'm going to add any more. All right, so this is going to be a very abstract cat. It's taking, obviously in summertime, watercolor and water-based art will dry quicker. But in winter it takes quite a while. So it's good to do a few different things, especially if you're doing plants, for instance. Like in my illustration, that you're at varsity, we had some amazing teachers, and this one lady did amazing botanical illustrations, and she was just saying how it's good to start with one leaf and then work around to different leaves, so you can at least paint this one and then go to the next one and the next one while the previous one's dry. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting a lot. Okay, let's see. I might do another one, seeing as this one hasn't dried yet. So much for drying quickly in summertime. So my next reference. I see. I was googling around to see like which artists paint in coffee, and I see there are quite a few who like kind of specialize in it. And I think it's a really good idea, but I'm not sure how long coffee lasts as a pigment. I don't know if anyone in the audience knows. So feel free to share that with us if you do. So if you want to give something like a gift to a friend, I think it's cool to give them a coffee painting, but also just keep in mind that it might not last that long. So maybe scan it in and do a print as well. Just that it won't fade in like 10 years time. That's why it's also really good to get a good paint if you're working with whatever your medium, just to check how good the pigment is, because I know I've painted paintings before in watercolors, like the very cheap beginner ones, and it fades quite a lot just from like normal light. So yeah, Deckled Edge has really like great people working there, so ask them for some advice. But Winsor Newton is my favorite. I know there's some amazing new competitors out there, so yeah, I'm sure the people at Deckled Edge will, which is my favorite art shop. Not that this is a name dropping opportunity, sorry. They'll be able to give you some advice. Cool, that's my second one done for now. Also, if you're struggling with observation, and what I mean by that is like if you, lots of people feel more comfortable tracing something, but I really encourage people to get good at learning to look at something and then deconstruct it in your mind. Basically just observe and then translate that to your page really well. And it really takes practice. I remember in art school, they drilled it into us, like, look at this object and then redraw it. And it's a whole thing of like breaking things down into tiny shapes. Like if you were to look at this Crink bottle, you can see that's a circle there, and like this is like a kind of that's not a triangle, but it's like a moon shape. And you start learning to kind of translate it really well just from looking at something, but it does take practice. I remember getting back to art school after a long holiday, and I was just like, oh man, so out of it, because you need to get your eye in. So that's why I recommend drawing at coffee shops. It's just really good practice. Just make sure the person isn't sitting too closely to you, otherwise it could get a bit awkward if you keep staring at them. But people are generally quite open to that sort of thing. Like in Stellenbosch, we'd often have drawing days on Wednesdays, and I loved it. We'd go to the botanical gardens or sit in coffee shops, and people would often come and ask what we're up to, and it's quite a cool way of striking up conversation. So I'm going to add some more granules just to make this a little bit stronger for what it's worth. See if I get a darker pigment. Now you can go over your different paintings and just see where you might want to add some more pigment. I'm just going to finish this cushion and pretend I can see all of it in the reference picture. Yeah, this might be obvious, but if you're doing like a print or something on a cushion, for instance, it could be nice to use something different, like the stick, like the stick or feather or something to create an interesting print on it. Yeah. Well, yeah, I just might ask you to stop us when the time is right, because I know time can just go really quickly when you're painting. At work, we do it over lunchtime sometimes, and then you usually have to set an alarm, otherwise you just get really into it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that for now. Now, I feel like working with some ink, but you're really welcome to take like I said, a ballpoint pen, or anything that has a darker line. Okay, I'm going to use this. Let's see, cool. So now your blotting paper comes in handy. I'm going to grab a bit of ink and just put it in the lid. Yeah, everyone works differently. I mean, some people use palettes for this, other people use nib pens. But I really enjoy these brush pens. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so I'm back to my first reference picture. And you're bound to get some coffee on your arm at some point. But that's okay. All right, see, so for me, the blotting paper, I either use just like normal cartridge paper or a tissue, just to absorb the extra moisture on the page. And sometimes a bit too much water comes out. I usually use an extra page like this just to test the strokes before I actually apply it to the final page. Yeah, so you can see like, okay, cool, that's the kind of line I want, and not like one that spreads that much. You can see this line here. Sorry, it might be obvious, but like this middle line here, you can see it's starting to cauliflower and like spread into the page. That's because there's so much water in there. So I'm rather I use that first stroke just to get rid of excess water, and now I can see, okay, cool, I've got a clean stroke. There isn't too much water or ink on that. So it's just to test your stroke. Okay, let's see if I can get one of these done. I'm not the fastest painter. Some people are incredibly fast. If you watch like people on Instagram, and they're like super quick. I suppose it takes practice, and if that's like what you do every single day, it probably comes quicker and quicker. Oh, this is quite cool. Now it's like some of it's still a bit wet, so it's starting to flow into it, which is actually quite nice. If any of you want to show or share what you've done, I'm not quite sure how you can share it with us all. But maybe Voyo, if you could share with us later on how people can share the artwork, it would be so cool to see. No pressure though. We have a Slack channel at work where everyone usually shares afterwards what they've been up to. I've been really surprised by some of the guys. Okay, I know some of the best artists in the world were guys, but I'm often surprised at people who just whip out these amazing artworks, and I had no idea that they could actually paint. Oh, that is the wrong bowl. That's my coffee, not my ink. It's also a good thing is to, the reason why I'm using these little bowls is because my tea is right over here. Ironically, I'm having tea and not coffee, just for the nerves. But I've often dipped my paintbrush into tea. So it's good to have bowls that don't resemble a mug, just so you don't get ink or paint in your tea. Yeah, I'm sure most of you have experienced that already. Okay, let's get some more ink. Okay. Oh yeah, Slack would be great to share. I see Sanele said. Thanks, that's good advice. And yes, don't sip from your paint. Probably not too bad when you're working with coffee. Now the perfectionist in me, you can see I'm like zooming in on this, but it's good sometimes to just like loosen up and yeah, just have fun. Um, there's a tummy. Nikki has a bit of a Braveheart face, so I can't add that much definition in the darker side here. So I'm going to do, just going to show a lifting technique, seeing as we are probably quite close to being done. I wonder if I'll be able to show it. So she's got she has a little white paw here. I'm not sure if this is going to work with coffee. With watercolor, usually you can wet the pigment again once it's dry and then use blotting paper or tissue just to lift it. So let's see, this little front paw. Okay, so I'm gonna, with these brush pens, you can just squeeze them a bit and get some water. And once again, I'm using the blotting, this extra paper just to test how much water is on it. And I'm gonna wet it and then just dab it hard and lift. I lift it a little bit. So that's, yeah, it's also a cool way. If you've painted something already, like let's say you want to create some cool negative or white patterns in a darker pigment, you can also do like little something like this. Don't know if you'll be able to see it. I don't have such a dark background. But you can also kind of lift it up and do like some cool patterns like that. Yeah, you can probably see that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm super curious to know what everyone's been painting. If you've chosen to do like just a therapeutic pattern session, or if you are also painting your pets. One of the organizers, Pamela, and I have worked together, and I know she has a little dog called Emma, so I'm wondering if she's painted. She's painting Emma. Cool. These brushes are really cool because you can just clean your brush and then go on painting, which is really nice. I'm trying to lift up some more paint here. And just another point on like what makes an artwork look really nice is often very like high contrast. So if you've got a, if you want to make something really stand out, or if a painting is lackluster, it's often just lacking contrast. So with watercolor especially, when you start adding the contrast towards the end, then a painting really comes alive. Because with watercolor and with coffee painting, the lighter bits are like, that's like kind of what gives that emphasis. So you need to work with the page. You can't really get lighter than the page. And so the more darker contrast you add, the better. Adding some toe beans. Kind of wish I had some pink to paint these with. At least she has some black ones. And now, just because I feel like it, I'm going to add some detail. But I'm sure some of you have been super brave and are doing cool patterns, and you can see I'm creating some nice palm presses here. But that's also just part of it. And like I said, I'm just adding some of the darker tones. I mean, you can be super detailed with this if you want to. Did I just reprint this entire? Oh, that's the cushion. I thought I had palm pressed an extra cat on here. Anyway. Yeah, but for someone like me who I love detail and really don't like making mistakes, so it's actually good practice for me to just kind of, not worry too much and just do something like this every now and again. Cool. Just cleaning my brush. I'm going to add some shadow to this. And some of this ink might run, but I'm not going to let that worry me too much. Another thing with painting something that looks realistic and 3D is just choosing a light source. Sometimes it helps, if when I'm doing vector animations, vector illustrations, I mean, it's just good to draw a little sun, for instance. I don't know if you can see that. You don't have to do the rays, but and then you just know, okay, cool. Everything that I all the shadows and everything I add, it needs to take into consideration that the light source is over here. And yeah, that's been super helpful in the past. Okay, that is my ink, not my coffee. Yeah, thank goodness my tea's further away, otherwise I would definitely have got some ink in there already. And with shadows as well, most of you probably know this, but it's good to not don't use black straight away. It's good to use a mixture of blues and reds and dark brown tones, because black is a bit in a shadow. It's can be a bit intense unless you water it down. But yeah, there's some great tutorials on things like that. There are incredible tutorials on Skillshare and on YouTube.
Wow, that looks so cool, Lauren. Like in my head,
Thanks,
I
Ria.
can see like four little different cats, and then you just need to like this define them a bit more. Yeah, so I was actually following along as well, and
Ah, cool.
mine looks terrible, but this is what I came up with
No, that's
until
so cool.
until I like messed it up so that I can't show you. But yeah, no, I actually see someone do something on TikTok, and you have so many questions or like little comments. Um, but
Oh,
then I
cool.
can see, yeah. So I could see that somebody saying don't sip from the paint, definitely not. But somebody was asking, what do you? Oh, best advice. Okay, no, I'm okay. Somebody was asking, what did you say the blotting paper? What does it do?
Oh, I see. So for me, I usually just use a tissue. I'm sure yeah, you do get the expensive blotting paper and things like that. But I just use it if I've added too much water or too much paint. I just quickly use my tissue to just dab. Maybe I should change to. Can you see my face? Let me swap.
We can see your face. Oh,
Okay,
okay, no,
cool.
that's fine.
Um, cool. I just dab the page quickly. So it's used to lift paint. Like I said, if you've gone too dark, just wait for it to dry and then yeah, like put more water on it and then lift it up. That's like for very specific designs. But if you've like you have way too much water on your page, start blotting. Otherwise your page is gonna start warping. And then the side paper, you can see I've used it to test my just to test like
Colors,
if
yeah.
I have too much water on my paint. Yeah, it's super useful, especially if you're going detailed. Um,
No, I
yeah,
love it.
that's
Because I
pretty
saw
much what I.
one lady use wine, and then that was really quick. It was on TikTok because there's always something on TikTok. But this looks
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Like I love the detail. It was such a wonderful session just after lunch. Yeah, I can smell the coffee. But yeah,
Me
thank
too.
you so much. It
It's
was
a
really
pleasure. Thank you
lovely.
all so much.
We had fun. I
Thank you
hope
for.
everyone else enjoyed getting their hands all coffeeed up and being creative and making mistakes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks everyone for joining. Have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you.